Hello everybody. We have a game with the white pieces against Krill Peon rated 1766. Let's try to get a Jobava London on the board and see what happens. So we do get the first three moves, and he comes with an early bishop f5. Fine. Let's close our pawn chain. He plays c6 so that we can never play knight b5. Fine. Now we can play f3 and try to harass his bishop that he just put outside of his pawn chain. So because we can't play e4 because it hangs, we're going to go g4 instead, gaining space on the king side. He retreats the bishop. We're going to gain further space on the king side, threatening to trap the bishop. He creates space for the bishop. We push past, hitting the knight, and the knight has to go home. Or to d7, but kind of fights for the square. And now we can just develop. Let's bring our bishop out to the most natural square. Stare at his bishop. He should not let us take because that ruins his pawn structure, so he takes. Normally I take with the queen, but in this case he went c6, so if I take with the pawn, at some point he's going to have to play c5 anyway, and he'll have wasted a tempo. But let's take with the queen. Okay, he brings his queen out, supports c5, and attacks our pawn. Oftentimes a response to this is this, only you can't meet the check with the normal c3 because you moved your queen. You could long castle, but I see no reason. Just put your rook here opposite his queen. Any tactics always work out for you now, and you could just still keep your king on the king side because this is kind of locked. So even though they're extended, it should be very safe, your king. So he develops his knight this way. Okay, he's looking to hit the queen, I suppose. Maybe, I don't know. All I know is that this can't develop anywhere good. This is bad. This is hanging, hanging. Fights for three pieces. So maybe we go ace a3 and just take the square away from all of his pieces. And maybe because our rook is behind, in the future we can play b4 and stop c5 advances, and we can hop our knight in, with much greater effect. But for now it's just a prophylactic move, and we can develop our knight, connect our rooks, and then do that stuff. It's annoying for black that I control this diagonal and that he can't. Normally black has a queen at home and the knight's not here, so you put the bishop here and you can trade. But he moved his knight to a weird square when normally you can bring it back home and reroute it to f5. So now he plays c5, but it took 2 moves instead of 1. So that's something. It undefends these light squares. So my first thing is knight b5, but he has all the squares covered pretty well. Also, there's this move. So queen here. If I offer him the trade, I'm really tying down his minor pieces very well. So maybe let's just do that and keep it simple. The newly created weakness, or the square that he undefended, we're going to use it with our queen. If we can get this knight to be b5 like we want to oftentimes in the Jobava to coordinate with the bishop, it works out very well. So he just takes a pawn in the center and says, I'm maintaining the tension. If we take the pawn, the queen takes the pawn, hitting everything. Our position's no good. So now that we've done this, we should probably take the queen. And although he gets to develop his knight, I don't think it's going to be the best knight. Especially this one is trapped. We take back our pawn, so material's even. And although it looks like c4 is good, it's really not doing anything. It's not threatening anything. So it blocks his rook. I mean, it's a little much. Okay, so knight b5 here is weird. It's interesting because it stops him from putting his bishop here or moving his knight. And he can't kick me. So I do like this. I like it even more than just developing, because this knight, yeah, it's developed and it's a good move, but I'd much rather tie his pieces down. So he moves his king. Fair enough. Fair enough, actually, yeah. I suppose maybe not. Okay, so we're probably gonna end up trading this knight, but that's fine because it's always in the way of our pawn anyway. For the time being, let's just leave it there, and I think we can develop, right? I don't see anything too wrong with this. Let's just bring our last minor piece out and find something to do with the king. I guess we can take the time to reroute our knight this way. You know, in the Carlsbad fashion. But he retreats his supposed good knight and offers trades. But this is the knight I thought he was going to trade. I don't really want to go back. I don't see the benefit. So I'm going to take. He takes. If we take, he moves his king up. And then we stop his central pawn break. We could do that. If he ever takes and we go here, he can't break immediately. King d2. Or should I go bishop back? Does that allow him to push actually? No, because I take it. Bishop back, threatening to... No, let's just improve our king and get our position as good as, like, as active as possible with all of our pieces. There are some weird nuances, but it doesn't matter. Even if we don't get some nuanced advantage, we'll just try to outplay them in an endgame. We don't need to do anything crazy. So he moves his rook to pressure the c-file, which will one day we're going to close anyway. And then we have the e-file. So let's maybe get a rook there in anticipation of our knight moving, which it will. Okay, he goes in here and attacks the pawn. I don't really see the point of this, but okay. I'm going to play c3. We're going to have to play it at some point to stop the pressure he's going to have from the doubled rooks anyway, so let's just do it. And we're going to take his bishop. Oh, okay, he took ours, because I don't want to have to calculate tactics and stuff. So now that we took this, we're controlling this pawn break. We have a pawn here, which is nice. Maybe we can go g6 with our knight specifically here. If he takes, you can take this pawn. Well, not anymore. Okay. Oh, wait, what? That's clever. We get a knight, he gets a knight, and he's hitting all weaknesses. Okay, so we're not going to take that. We're going to let him get a random check that doesn't do anything. Instead, okay, g6. That takes. I don't want to open his rook. Here. Here. Guess I'll go back, maybe. Wait, I just noticed, is his rook trapped? What is this move? What is that move? He must have seen it and in anticipation prepared the knight sack. Okay, so he saw it. Okay, so now we're winning. We just have to not run out of time. Easy. Let's get the knight here. That's a fork. He stops it. We ignore him. Let's advance our pawn. Again, if he takes, fork. How else can I go about this? If he's going to control this, he goes there, which is weird. Now I'm going to push past to make his... He might go back around, but that takes a lot of time. He moves his king up. I don't buy it. Let's push. And cement the structure. He might take because it's a hanging pawn, but he doesn't. He pushes past. But now I can take. Sure, this is hanging, but... What if I throw this in first? Get it off the side. Then it's not hanging. And then I could take next. And if he ever pushes, I get to hop my knight around, hit his weakness, and take outposts and stuff. So he took a pawn. And I'm going to throw in an intermezzo check, get this on an outpost. He goes back. Okay, so he took a pawn. I take a pawn. My knight is dominated here, so I'm going to move it. Okay, now he moves that. Let's go here and hit stuff. He could double. I'll bring my rook back. Actually, there's contact here, so I'm going to take his rook and hop my knight into the outpost as a replacement. I'm doing this quickly because I have 1 minute and I have no time to think, so I'm just coming up with quick ideas. I say we go here, forcing the king take, and then we clog the file from his rook and force him to do that. Let's get some space for our rook, maybe get our king up the board somewhere. Grab this open file with the rook. Oop, I misclicked. I meant to go here. Hopefully that's not costly. Let's just get our king over. He actually can't use this file either, which is super annoying. Maybe I can checkmate him now that he's walking into a mating net. And there it is. He mated himself. What a nice guy. Always on the lookout for mating nets. Especially when you see that king coming to your side of the board and in this corner, putting itself in the corner. It's asking to be mated. So let's go over this game against a 1766 solid opposition who did not crumble in 5 moves like a lot of our opponents. Right? He already didn't make the first mistake bringing the knight out. He brings the bishop out, and we just go development and center. Center with the idea of space gain. Gaining space for free. Gaining space for free. He's threatening to win to trade, but we don't want to do that and open his rook, so kind of force move and for free. Gain space for free. Development and center. Force move. Oh, it's nice. The computer likes g6 here, which is interesting. But anyway, we just defend the pawn because there's so many lines in which maybe you can hang the pawn, maybe you can't, and then you have to come up with, oh, what's my response going to be once he takes it? It's like this whole thing. Just put your rook here. It may look passive, but he spent the turn doing this with his queen. Black's idea is going to have to be to push the queenside pawns at some point anyway. He's going to have to move his queen again. And your rook sits perfectly fine here, so. Okay, now we just prophylaxis. We see exactly the squares that his pieces can go, and our pawns really control that nicely. And then it's just an improving move for free. I mean, our queen was fine here as well, but I think the knight on b5 with the extra space on the king side, it's a tiny bit more pleasant for white to play. But you still have to outplay your opponent in the endgame because it's an equal position, right? Oops. So he takes our pawn and now force move. We have to take the queen. Force move. And now instead of development, we try to improve a piece with prophylaxis. Right? It's not for free, but it is with prophylaxis. And that's the big improvement. It's not like it's gonna do amazing things, but we don't want it on the c3 square because we want to solidify. And it has nowhere to go. So might as well throw it in, that way he can't move this a6 knight. Now we develop towards the center. Now our knight's hanging, so force move. Improving a piece towards the center. Developing a piece towards the center. Improving our center and prophylaxis. And so far the entire game has been equal. More or less. It's just been a completely playable game from both sides. No one did anything crazy or dumb. And it's still playable for both sides. So he trades bishops, force move. And now it's just kind of like a Carlsbad structure. Normally they do some type of minority attack. And I try to play on the king side and down the e file while they use the c file. But it's an even game, and whoever outmaneuvers, right? So yeah, we took the bishop, and now he goes for this move, which happens to be a blunder. So it was completely even until this. At first, I thought it was clever because if you take the knight, your position just crumbles immediately, and he's threatening checks because you created some weaknesses. So I thought it was cute, but it does block his rook. And only afterwards did I realize, wait a second, the rook has nowhere to go. This is defended, this is defended. It was just a weird construction. And then we did find it. It took a while because we were going over other resources, but we came across this. And then he sacked, and it goes from an even game to plus 4.6. Which is basically a rook. And a lot of people might have trouble converting, but at the end of the day, because this pawn's defended twice, doubling, can never win it. So you have infinite time to reroute this knight as many times as you need to do whatever it needs to do. And so that's basically how you convert. So this is a beautiful square, so he stops us. But every time you move a pawn, you make new squares, and the knight can hop around infinitely to reach that square, and pawns can't go back. So you can do whatever you want here to convert. My idea was to just push this pawn as far as I can to just break this down a little bit. So prophylaxis against his rook. And I just wanted to bust open the file. Intermezzo prophylaxis, because if you take, you give him an outside pass pawn. Intermezzo check, improving for free. Taking back my pawn, force move. Improving a piece for free. Improving a piece for free. And then you just get your rook in the game somehow. It doesn't really matter. You can put it here, here. Everything's winning. Not bad. 3 inaccuracies, all zeros, 96%. So, like I mentioned, a couple of nuances here and there, but essentially just a solid game. And as you get higher rated, the Jobava London, you're going to get a lot of this, where it's just super solid. You end up doing lots of piece trades, and you get a position like this, kind of. And then you have to find a way to outplay them. So we did. And yeah, you don't really get, black doesn't need to do anything crazy to make sure you don't get an opening advantage from the Jobava London. So not my favorite, and as you climb higher and higher, especially in the 1700, 1800 range, try a new opening, maybe pick something else. That would be nice. Good luck in your chess. I'll see you in the next video.